Assalamu alaikum guys. So obviously this video is primarily to the year 11s. So obviously this year you guys are going to be writing your GCSEs around May, June, July time. So it's a really important year and you need to make sure that you utilize your time wisely so it does pay off by results day in August 2025. So we'll get straight into it. I'm just going to be talking about top tips, like resources you can use, revision techniques that might help you for each subject. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's based on how you revise. But I will just be talking about the ways I revise. So if you guys haven't heard of it, you guys can try it out, and maybe that might be helpful to you. So we'll start off with English literature, and honestly, my revision was heavily based off flashcards and mind maps for English literature. So the way I would do it is basically like over here is I would write down the title of the theme. So the way I did it is I didn't do quotes by character, instead I did quotes by theme. So in each theme I would list out the characters, and for each character I would have two quotes based on that theme. So I'd basically be killing two birds with one stone and knowing quotes for characters and for themes, because if you do one for each it can become quite content heavy in the end. So that's basically the way I did it, and I did this for each of my novels. But the mistake that I made is I did this 2 or 3 months before the exam, and flashcards do take a long time to make. So my recommendation would be as soon as you finished your play or your novel, to make these flashcards and not leave it to the last minute, because it does become quite stressful. And obviously you don't have just English literature, but you have other subjects too. So do this ahead of the time. So before the exam or the night before, you can just use them. You can also use them whilst writing your essays. It's a really good revision resource. So now for English language. English language, many people say, is something that you don't really need to revise for, and it's something people would usually look at maybe the night before the exam or the week before. But English language is a skill you need to gain over time, meaning that timing is so difficult for English language that you have to write a few essays to actually get the rhythm and be able to handle the pressure and write everything in the time that you're given. So what I would say is from September, maybe every fortnight write one English language essay. It's not going to take that long, and make sure you're handing these in to your teacher. And that's so important, because then you know where you need to improve on, the current grade you're working at, how to get to that next grade, because obviously these are tips for you to maximize your grades. If you're not going to hand these into your teacher, then you're not going to know where you're going wrong, and it's just not going to be helpful for yourself. So now for maths, I would say maths is something that requires a lot of practice too, kind of like English language, and it requires practice over time. So if you are struggling on a specific chapter, meaning you don't understand a specific concept, go to the Maths Genie website, go to GCSE revision and scroll to whatever grade you're working at, or you can type in the search bar the specific topic you want. If you want grade specific worksheets, that's all there for you, and Maths Genie and Physics and Maths Tutor are really good. Save My Exams is also good, but you do need to pay a subscription for that, but I would say it's worth it if you only need it for a year. And Save My Exams is not only for maths, but it's for every other science or subject too. So now if we get onto the sciences, I'm going to do this very generally, because obviously sciences are usually revised in very similar ways. Make sure you're revising all your content, because you don't know what's going to come up in the exam at the end of the day. If there has been a specific concept, a specific, let's say 6-marker style that's come up for 3 years, don't leave it to the side and just say that it's not going to come up this year, because it very well might be coming up this year too. I have realized that 6 markers quite a lot of the time are core practicals, so I would heavily imply for you guys to also revise your core practicals really well. This is aimed towards physics, just because physics papers, 30% of the marks go towards formulae, so make sure you're learning your formulae. I was very lucky and was given with a formulae sheet which had all my formulae on it, but you guys need to memorize it, and please memorize it really well, because these are easy marks for you and you can maximize your grades by learning these off really well and off by heart really well. You are provided with some formulae in the exam, but obviously it's not going to be everything, and it's usually the more complex formulae that are given to you. For me, geography was very based around mind maps, and honestly, like, mind maps were the best way. And the thing is that you can't spend time making your mind maps look pretty, because at the end of the day you want to have concise and concise information on these mind maps for you to just, you know, scan through the night before, and it shouldn't be too content heavy that it makes it overwhelm you. So I took French, and obviously languages usually are kept to the side for quite a while until the last, you know, few months of the exam. But for French, for speaking, I really urge you guys to learn your speaking questions really well from the beginning, meaning that when you're writing them, make sure there's complex grammar and vocabulary in them. So when you memorize it, you can use these both in your speaking and your writing. So basically, you again killing two birds with one stone, and you are maximizing your grades in two papers. For the French listening, which is usually seen as the hardest element, listen to some French every day, maybe like 10 to 20 minutes. So that, whether that be a show or some music, or you know, the news if you really want to, and these will really help you at the end of the day. French papers, obviously there aren't many available online like there are for some sciences, but I really would say that try to do these maybe 2 months before the exam, and do these a few times. Don't do one paper once, and this goes to all subjects. Do the same paper twice or thrice, and make sure you're not making the same mistakes. So now the last one is for computer science. Computer science theory, again, is something that you just have to memorize, and I would really recommend Teach ICT and Craig and Dave. I used to use the Craig and Dave presentations rather than the YouTube videos, because I thought it was just quicker to make my notes from there and to just scan through the presentations, because the information is so easy and concise to understand. For the programming paper, programming is again a skill you need to like just learn over time. And if you're really struggling with programming, there's so many YouTubers who can help you, and you can join courses. They're really easy to find, and they're very available everywhere. So just know your basic Python, because they're not going to ask you extremely complex stuff in the papers, but you need to have that base, like, foundation knowledge for you to understand and to write code. A really important thing which goes specifically towards computer science and the programming element is, when you're doing it, make sure you're writing out your code rather than putting it in the Python shell, because then you're just going to keep running your code and it's going to keep telling you the mistakes. But if you're going to write it down, then you need to learn, you need to know the mistakes that you're making. So that's really important. So make sure you're not doing it on the Python shell. Once you're very confident with what you've written, then you can put it in the Python shell and check. Okay, so those are all of the subjects I did. It was quite a quick video. I just wanted to give you guys some last minute tips. For the final thing I'd like to say is the revision technique that basically I used for all my subjects, which was so helpful. And this is known as the blurt method. So the blurting method is basically you reading a page of your textbook, a page of your notes, closing that and writing down everything you remember, and do this quite a few times, and then the information that you haven't written, put that in a different colored pen, and maybe try the same thing again tomorrow, because trust me, you will be able to realize that you remember more information easily. I use this for all of my subjects across. It's just a really quick and easy way to remember information. And make sure you're not doing this only once, do it over a period of time, so eventually that information will get stored into your head. You can do this for quotes, especially in English. Maths, it won't be as helpful obviously, but for your geography, where you need to learn, let's say, the formation of headlands and bays or coastal erosion, you can just blurt down everything you remember. And if you forget specific points, write it down in a different colored pen, and to fill in the gaps of your knowledge. So I hope you guys like this video. Again, like I said, it was really quick. I wish all the year 11s the very best of luck for this year. This year is really important, and I'm sure if you try really hard, you're going to have an excellent and relaxing summer break, and at the end of the day, it will pay off on results day. Inshallah, I'll see you next week for a back to school haul, which I hope you guys are excited for. And yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Bye.